Here are some teenagers who got sentenced to life imprisonment for some deadly crimes. First on today's list, we've Philip Chisholm. Philip Chisholm is an American who, in 2013 at the age of 14, was convicted for the murder and rape of his high school math teacher, Colleen Ritzer, in Danvers, Massachusetts. The crime occurred at Danvers High School when Chisholm followed Ritzer into a bathroom after school, where he sexually assaulted her and killed her by stabbing her multiple times. He then moved her body into the woods near the school. The case shocked the local community due to the brutality of the crime and Chisholm's young age. In 2016, Chisholm was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. His case highlighted issues related to juvenile justice, the treatment of young offenders, and school safety. The Lionel Tate case is notable for being one of the most controversial child criminal cases in the U.S. legal system. Lionel Tate was only 12 years old when he was charged with the murder of 6-year-old Tiffany Unick in 1999 in Broward County, Florida. Tiffany Unick was being babysat by Tate's mother when Lionel, reportedly imitating professional wrestling moves he had seen on television, inflicted severe injuries on her. Tiffany suffered a fractured skull, broken ribs, and lacerations of her liver, leading to her death. Lionel Tate was charged as an adult, and in 2001, at the age of 14, he was convicted of first-degree murder. The prosecution argued that Tate had intentionally beaten Tiffany, while the defense claimed that her death was an accident during rough play. Florida law required a mandatory life sentence for a first-degree murder conviction, which led to Tate becoming the youngest American ever sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case raised significant debates about juvenile justice, the treatment of minors in the criminal system, and the effects of media violence on children. Nehemiah Griego. Nehemiah Griego's story is both tragic and chilling. On January 19, 2013, at just 15 years old, Nehemiah committed a horrific crime in Albuquerque, New Mexico, killing his entire family. His father, Greg Griego, a well-known former pastor, his mother, Sarah, and his 3 younger siblings, Zephaniah, Jael, and Angelina. Nehemiah grew up in a deeply religious family, with his father being a prominent pastor in the community. However, reports later suggested that Nehemiah was dealing with internal struggles, including feelings of isolation, anger, and emotional turmoil. Some accounts also indicate that he had been exposed to violent video games and military-style thinking, which may have fueled his fascination with weapons and violence. On that fateful day, Nehemiah took a rifle and shot his mother while she was sleeping. He then killed his younger siblings to prevent them from growing up without a mother. When his father came home later, Nehemiah shot him as well. Following the murders, Nehemiah reportedly spent hours at the house with the bodies. He texted a picture of his dead mother to his girlfriend and spoke about his actions in a matter-of-fact way, even claiming that he had planned to carry out a larger killing spree, including attacking a Walmart, though this never materialized. Nehemiah was eventually apprehended after visiting his church and confessing to his crime. Investigators were shocked by the methodical nature of the killings and his calm demeanor in describing what he had done. Nehemiah was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder. His defense argued that he had suffered from mental health issues and emotional distress, compounded by the strict and perhaps overbearing upbringing in his religious household. There was also discussion about his potential for rehabilitation. A key question in his legal proceedings was whether Nehemiah should be tried as an adult or as a juvenile. In 2016, the court ruled that despite the severity of the crime, he would be sentenced as a juvenile because of his age and evidence that he could be rehabilitated. This decision meant that he would serve time in a juvenile detention facility rather than face a life sentence in adult prison. In March 2019, just before his 21st birthday, Nehemiah Griego was released from juvenile detention, as required by law for cases tried under juvenile statutes. His release sparked outrage from some members of the community, who believed that his punishment was too lenient considering the gravity of the crime. However, the court maintained that he had shown progress in his rehabilitation, citing psychological reports and his behavior while in custody. Nehemiah's story continues to evoke strong emotions and debates about juvenile justice, mental health, and the balance between rehabilitation and punishment for violent offenders, especially when the perpetrator is a child. T.J. Lane is an American criminal who became infamous for the Chardon High School shooting on February 27, 2012, in Chardon, Ohio. He was 17 years old at the time of the attack. Lane entered the school's cafeteria early in the morning and opened fire with a .22 caliber handgun, killing 3 students and wounding 3 others. Lane entered the high school cafeteria just before classes began, pulled out a handgun, and fired 10 shots at students who were sitting at a table. 3 students, Daniel Parmertor, Demetrius Hewlin, and Russell King Jr., died as a result of their injuries, while others were seriously injured. Lane was charged as an adult, despite being a juvenile at the time of the crime. In March 2013, he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of attempted aggravated murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. He was sentenced to 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. During his sentencing hearing, Lane shocked the court by wearing a white t-shirt with the word "killer" scrawled across it in black marker. He also smirked, cursed, and made an obscene gesture toward the victims' families.
You pulled the trigger that killed your sons, now masturbates to memory. All of you.
Which garnered widespread media attention and deepened the outrage surrounding the case. In 2014, Lane briefly escaped from the Allen Oakwood Correctional Institution in Lima, Ohio, along with 2 other inmates. He was recaptured a few hours later without causing any additional harm, but the escape intensified public anger over the case. Lane remains in prison, serving his life sentences without the possibility of parole. The Chardon High School shooting is remembered as one of the most tragic school shootings in Ohio's history. The Bever brothers' story refers to a horrific family murder that took place on July 22, 2015, in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. 2 teenage brothers, Robert Bever, then 18, and Michael Bever, 16, carried out the brutal killings of their own family members. The attack left 5 members of the Bever family dead and 1 seriously injured. On that night, the brothers attacked their family with knives in their home. The victims included their parents, David Bever, 52, and April Bever, 44, along with 3 of their siblings, Daniel, 12, Christopher, 7, and Victoria, 5. Their 13-year-old sister Crystal was critically injured but survived the attack. The youngest sibling, a 2-year-old girl, was unharmed and found alive in the house. The police were alerted after a 911 call was made, presumably by one of the children. When authorities arrived, they found a bloody and gruesome crime scene, with the 2 brothers attempting to flee into the woods nearby. The investigation revealed that the brothers had planned the attack for some time. Robert, the elder brother, was the main instigator. He harbored a fascination with mass killings and had discussed plans of continuing their murder spree beyond their family, intending to go on a cross-country killing spree. They were heavily influenced by violent media, and Robert had accumulated knowledge of infamous serial killers and mass murderers. Michael, the younger brother, was described as being influenced by Robert and had helped him carry out the crime. The plan was methodical, and they had even purchased weapons online in preparation for the killings. Both brothers were arrested shortly after the murders and faced charges of first-degree murder and assault. Robert Bever pleaded guilty in 2016 to avoid the death penalty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Michael Bever, who was a minor at the time of the crime, was also sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole, though he would need to serve at least 85% of his sentence before becoming eligible. The house where the murders took place was eventually demolished, and a memorial garden was built in its place to honor the victims. The Bever brothers' case shocked the community and drew attention to issues of family violence, mental health, and the influences of violent media. It remains one of the most disturbing cases of familicide in recent U.S. history. Subscribe and leave a comment if you want part 2. Thank you, and see you in the next one.